Hello, I'm Josh with the City of Waupaca. We're back with another community update this week. Only got Aaron with us, which is good. Lots going on at the city to talk about. And the first thing we'll jump into is an election is coming up on April 2nd that isn't that far away, but between now and April 2nd, there's opportunities to get registered, to do absentee voting if necessary. So tell us, there's a lot of dates and things to know about that.
There are a lot of dates, and I think the first thing I'm going to tell people is I think they should go to myvote.wi.gov. That has all the information, and you can do everything right from there. One important date to note: make sure you go on there, especially if you're going to be an absentee voter. Thursday, 28th at 5 p.m. is the deadline for that. Of course, the election is April 2nd, which is a Tuesday. We will not be having a city council meeting that night because by ordinance we cannot. We're pushing it to April 3rd. And then Plan Commission will be earlier than that. But for those who don't know, those who haven't voted in the city of Waupaca, it's all held at the Waupaca Recreation Center. Some of the things on the ballot are aldermanic districts number 1 through 5. All are incumbents with the exception of one of the districts, which it is contested. There are 2 people that have put in their names to serve in that capacity, which is great to see that interest. And that, of course, fills Lori Chestnut's seat, who unfortunately passed away this last fall. So that's currently vacant. So we just, as always, we encourage people to get out and vote. We encourage people to go to that website. And of course, after looking at that website or at any time, if you have any questions, you can call our clerk's office. They'll be happy to help.
And shouldn't forget to mention that there is in-person absentee voting at City Hall, but if you want to get that in the mail, you don't have to come in to request that. You can do it right from your computer at home, which is nice on that website.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Yep.
Yeah. Next thing we'll talk about is we've got Greg, the grant writer, and I know you want to touch on some recent activity he's been working on.
Yeah, Greg has been hard at work. Greg's done a great job getting a ton of quality of life projects. And just in the last several months, we've really looked at our capital plan and said, hey, we wanted to create a focus around that capital plan. And how can we offset some of our debt service levy in the future by tackling priority projects through grants? And there are some opportunities. There isn't always those opportunities, but there are for some of our high priority projects. One of them being West Fulton Street and the reconstruction of portions of West Fulton Street. Right now, there are 3 grant applications in for that project. One is a local roads improvement program in which we can get up to, it'll likely be 70% of the project cost for construction. That would include, if we were awarded, that would include from Main Street to Harrison Street. There's also a RAISE planning grant and a RAISE construction grant. Those are federal programs, probably a little bit more competitive, but we scored well on it last year. We were just outside of the highly recommended for funding. We did get some feedback, and we're hoping we can improve on that grant and potentially get in that highly recommended phase this year and get some money for a very, very important capital project to improve our infrastructure, but also be as little of a burden on taxpayers as possible while getting those done.
And Main Street's another example of that. That was a project that was partially funded by grants offsetting direct costs to the city too. So it'd be great to see that on another major roadway.
It was, and that was the STP program. So there are a number of these programs through the state and the feds. And it's great to have a grant writer and Justin, our public works director, who keep an eye on that and try to take advantage of every opportunity they can.
Perfect. I want to talk about Winchester a little bit, and that's a group that meets on select Mondays in the library meeting room, lifelong learning. And I know you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I want to talk about it and I know it's been going on forever, and they're really, really good programs. I went to my first one. It was actually on the history of the King Veterans Home. I've lived here my entire life, and there's just a lot that I didn't know about the King Veterans Home. And it was a great presentation. It was put on by a professor of history at the University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh. There's probably, I'm a bad judge, but there's probably well over 60 people in the room. And it was just really, really interesting and a neat program. And then I looked at the list of things coming up, and there are great qualified speakers. I think there's some like neurologists coming and speaking about some things, and then Chris Farley's brother, which is pretty cool. So keep an eye on it. Take a look at some of the upcoming programs, and I would encourage anyone to attend.
And their website for more details is winchesterwaupaca.org.
Yes.
And the last thing you want to talk about is you were at a WCMA conference. And first off, what does that stand for?
It's Wisconsin City and Counties Managers Association.
And you just want to speak a little bit on kind of how Waupaca compares to what other communities are doing.
Yeah, I just wanted to I think it's important to touch on. Every time we go to these conferences, we get to talk with other city managers, city administrators, and see what's happening in other communities. And it's a great time for me to appreciate what we have here, specifically in our staff and our council members. It really is incredible, the stuff that our staff is doing as far as best practices for a city the size of just over 6,000. There's a lot of neat things that our staff is engaged in, and a lot of things that they continue to recommend to put Waupaca in the best spot, short term and long term. And I just want to give staff a ton of credit. And sometimes when you're in the day to day, you are sometimes more focused on the issues and the challenges to solve. And when I am able to go to those conferences, it helps me appreciate it. And I thought it was important to share it.
Perfect. Well, Aaron, appreciate the time this week to get the community up to date, and we will talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, Josh.